My name is Anna J. Ware, 21 years old, and the day my parents sued me for buying my own house was the day I realized I had never actually had a family, only expectations I was supposed to live up to. I had just gotten home from the hardware store, my hands still dusty from drywall work, when everything changed. The house wasn't perfect yet. It was still a work in progress. But it was mine. Every wall, every scratch, every improvement came from years of saving, planning, and refusing to depend on anyone. 6 months earlier, I had signed the papers myself. No cosigner, no help, no safety net. Just me. I set the bag down near the door when I heard footsteps behind me. Anna J. Ware? I turned. A man in a suit stood on my porch, expression neutral, almost bored. Yes? He handed me an envelope. You've been served. Just like that. No explanation, no hesitation. He walked away like he hadn't just detonated something in the middle of my life. I stood there holding the envelope, my fingers tightening around the edges, as if that would somehow make it less real. It looked official, heavy, important, dangerous. I opened it slowly, and then I read it again, and then I read it a third time because my brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. Patricia and Daniel Ware versus Anna J. Ware. My parents, my own parents, were suing me. The words blurred together at first, but then they sharpened into something almost surreal. Unjust enrichment, fraud, breach of familial duty, interference with economic opportunity. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Translated, it meant something even more absurd. They were suing me for being successful. They claimed I had sabotaged my older sister, that I had taken opportunities that should have been hers, that the house I bought with my own money belonged to her. I sat down slowly on the porch steps, the paper still in my hands, my mind trying to catch up with reality. My phone started ringing. Of course it did. Mom, I answered. What is this? I asked, my voice already tightening. Her response came instantly, sharp and defensive. Don't you dare speak to me like that. You're suing me. You left us no choice. No choice. The words echoed strangely. You've been selfish, she continued. Cruel to your sister. I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. Selfish? I said. I worked 3 jobs through college while you paid for her private school. I could hear movement on the other end. Then my father's voice. Anna, listen carefully. This is happening. You can either settle or we go to court. Settle what? I asked. What exactly did I do? You know exactly what you did, he snapped. You built your little business using family connections. I stared out at my driveway. Connections? I repeated. We're middle class. What connections? You sabotaged your sister, he said, his voice rising. Every time she tried to build something, you undermined her. I offered to help her, I said, my voice steady now. I offered to teach her how to plan. She told me I was thinking too small. My mother cut back in. You stole her future, Anna. There it was. The real accusation. That house should be hers, she continued. That life should be hers. In the background, I heard my sister's voice. Sharp. Emotional. That's my house, she shouted. She stole my life. I closed my eyes. She was 25, living at home. And somehow, my life was hers? I didn't steal anything, I said quietly. I built it. With family help, she snapped. Grandma gave you money. Grandma passed away 6 years ago, I said. She left us both the same thing, $2,000. Liar, she shot back. You got more. You had to. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Clarity. I'm done with this conversation, I said. You will be hearing from our lawyer, my father warned. I'll be ready. You owe this family. No, I said, my voice firm now. I don't owe you anything. There was silence. Then, click, they hung up. I sat there for a long time after that, the sun slowly dipping lower, the paper still in my hand. And for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to understand them. Instead, I started preparing to fight them. If someone had asked me that morning whether I believed my parents were capable of taking me to court over my own house, I probably would have laughed. Not because they were good people. Not because they had ever been fair, but because even for them, that felt insane. Then again, if I was honest, this lawsuit hadn't appeared out of nowhere. It had been building for years, quietly, predictably, like a crack in glass that keeps spreading long after the first impact. I called my best friend Marcus that evening because I needed to hear one sane voice before I lost my mind. My parents are suing me for $250,000, I said the second he answered. There was a pause. Then, what? I told him everything. The papers, the accusations, the part where they wanted my house transferred to my sister as restitution for opportunities I had supposedly stolen. That's unhinged, he said flatly. Can they even do that? They can file, I said. Winning is another question. This is about your sister, isn't it? Of course it was. It had always been about her. My older sister, Claire, was the kind of person my parents described as full of potential. No matter how many times she crashed into the same wall. She was emotional, restless, always chasing some new version of success that never lasted long enough to become real. And in our house, that wasn't treated as irresponsibility. It was treated as brilliance that the world kept failing to recognize. I was the opposite. I was the one who adapted, the one who figured things out, the one who got told no and somehow turned it into a plan. I was 14 when I first understood how differently we were being raised. I needed $20 for a school robotics club. Nothing dramatic, just a fee. Dad looked at me over in the newspaper and said, "Money doesn't grow on trees, Anna. If you want it, earn it." That same week, Claire got $500 for some entrepreneurship camp she begged to attend for 3 days before losing interest. She came home with a tote bag, a notebook she never opened, and a speech about being destined to build something big. I started mowing lawns that Saturday. By the end of summer, I had saved $800. Claire had spent her $500 on takeout, clothes, and random junk from the mall. No one called that irresponsible. They called it youthful energy. When I turned 16, my parents gave me a used bike they found on Craigslist. I thanked them like it was the best gift in the world because at that point, gratitude had become a survival skill. 2 months later, Claire turned 16. They bought her a brand new car. Not a sensible one, not something practical. A shiny, expensive car they claimed she needed for future opportunities. She never used it for anything except driving to parties and showing off in school parking lots. She wrecked it before graduation. They bought her another one. I kept riding my bike until I was 18 and bought my own old Civic with money I'd saved from tutoring and fixing computers. That was the rhythm of our family. Claire needed. I managed. Claire dreamed. I worked. Claire failed. I was expected not to notice. College made it worse. Claire got into a private business program my parents could barely afford, and somehow that only made them prouder. They threw her a huge party, catered food, decorations, speeches about her bright future. I still remember standing in the corner holding a paper plate, listening to relatives praise her ambition, like ambition alone was an accomplishment. A year later, I got a full academic scholarship to a state university. Tuition covered, housing covered, books mostly covered. I told my parents over dinner. Dad nodded once and said, "That's good." Mom texted me the next day. "Congrats, sweetie." That was it. No dinner, no celebration, no speech. Just the quiet assumption that of course I had figured it out. Of course I didn't need anything. Of course I would keep carrying myself. And I did. I worked 3 jobs in college. Information technology support on campus, private tutoring at night, freelance web design on weekends. I slept less than I should have, ate badly, counted every dollar, graduated with a strong GPA, savings in the bank, and 0 debt. Claire graduated with loans, excuses, and the same shining confidence that somehow always survived failure. When she moved back home, my parents said the job market was brutal. When she burned through money, they said entrepreneurship required risk. When she failed, they treated it like proof the world had failed her first. By the time I was 20 and quietly building my own business at night, I already understood something I had spent years trying not to say out loud. My parents didn't love us differently. They believed in us differently. Claire was the daughter they invested in. I was the daughter they expected to survive without investment. So when I looked down at those lawsuit papers again that night, the real shock wasn't that they were trying to take from me. It was that they had finally stopped pretending they wouldn't. By the time I was 20, I had stopped waiting for anyone to notice what I was building. Not out of bitterness, out of habit. I started my business quietly. No announcement, no big moment, just research, trial and error, and a willingness to fail privately until something worked. I sold small tech accessories online at first. Phone cases, cables, laptop stands. Nothing glamorous, just products people actually needed. I spent 6 months studying suppliers, pricing models, shipping logistics. I made mistakes early, lost money, fixed them, and kept going. Every dollar I earned, I reinvested. Every night after work, I worked again. 18-hour days became normal. There was no applause, no encouragement, just progress. By the end of my first year, I had made $45,000 in revenue. Not profit, revenue. $12,000 actually stayed in my account after expenses. It wasn't huge, but it was real. It was mine. I didn't celebrate. I reinvested. While I was building something slow and stable, Claire was on her second business attempt. The first had been a boutique food concept. My parents gave her $45,000 to launch properly. She spent most of it on branding, equipment, and a flashy setup that looked impressive, but had no structure behind it. She never researched permits, never studied the market, picked a terrible location. 3 months later, it collapsed. The system is rigged, my mom said. The city makes it impossible for small businesses, my dad added. No one asked why other businesses in the same area were still operating. The next idea came faster. Crypto. $30,000 this time. Claire followed influencers, watched videos, talked about timing the market. She lost everything in 6 weeks. The market is unpredictable, my dad said. It's not her fault, my mom added. By then, I had stopped reacting. Not because I didn't care, because I already knew how the story would go. Claire would fail. My parents would explain it. And somehow, it would never be her responsibility. My business kept growing. Slowly, quietly, predictably. At 21, I crossed $180,000 in annual revenue, $65,000 in profit. I quit my day job and went all in. That was the moment everything shifted for me. Not emotionally, practically. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was building something real. That's when I found the house. It wasn't perfect. Far from it. $140,000 for a fixer-upper that most people walked away from. Outdated interior, damaged walls, old fixtures, a long list of problems that scared off buyers looking for something easy. But I didn't need easy. I needed possible. I put down 20%, $28,000 I had saved over years of working, sacrificing, and saying no to things most people my age didn't think twice about. Then I got to work. 4 months of renovations, YouTube tutorials, trial and error, long days covered in dust and paint, fixing things I had never touched before, learning everything the hard way. When I finally moved in, it didn't look like a dream house, but it felt like one, because every inch of it had been earned. My parents came to see it once. Just once. My dad walked through the room slowly, hands in his pockets, scanning everything like he was trying to find something to critique. It must be nice, he said finally. Getting lucky with timing. Lucky. That was his explanation. Not the years of work. Not the nights I didn't sleep. Not the risks I took when I had no backup plan. Just luck. My mom nodded in agreement, like that settled it. Claire stood in the doorway of the living room, arms crossed. You think you're better than me now? She asked. I didn't answer, because there was nothing I could say that wouldn't turn into something else. Something twisted. Something that would somehow still end with me being the problem. That was 3 weeks before the lawsuit. 3 weeks. That was all it took for my success to shift from something they ignored to something they felt entitled to. I sat in my living room that night, the legal papers spread out on the table in front of me, and for the first time, I didn't feel confused. I felt prepared, because deep down I had always known this moment would come. Maybe not like this. Not a lawsuit. Not this extreme. But I had always known that one day, the difference between me and Claire wouldn't just be ignored. It would be challenged. And now it was. So I opened my laptop, searched for lawyers, and stopped scrolling the moment I found one name. Blackwell and Associates. Their reviews were brutal in the best possible way. They don't just win, one said. They make the other side regret ever filing. I picked up my phone, dialed, left a message. My parents are suing me for being more successful than my sister, I said. I want to fight this, and I want them to regret it. The next morning, my phone rang at exactly 8 a.m. Anna J. Ware, a calm voice said. This is David Blackwell. Tell me everything. So I did. Everything. The years. The money. The favoritism. The lawsuit. When I finished, there was a brief pause. And then, this is one of the most baseless cases I've seen in 20 years, he said. I let out a breath. So they can't win? No, he said simply. They have no legal ground. Another pause. But let me ask you something, he added. Do you just want to win, or do you want to make a statement? I didn't hesitate. What kind of statement? We countersue, he said. Abuse of process, emotional distress, legal fees. We make this expensive. We make it painful. We make sure they never try anything like this again. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. For years, I had taken everything quietly. Adjusted. Moved on. Let things go. This time, I didn't want to let it go. Let's make a statement, I said. There was a small pause. Then I could hear it in his voice. Approval. Good, he said. Then we start today. And for the first time since I was 14 years old, I wasn't just surviving what my family did to me. I was fighting back. From the moment I hired Blackwell, everything shifted. Not emotionally. Strategically. For the first time, I wasn't reacting to my family. I was preparing for them. Blackwell didn't waste time. Documentation, he said. Everything you have. Income, expenses, tax returns, communications. If they're claiming fraud, we bury them in facts. So I did. 7 years of records. Every job I worked. Every dollar I earned. Every business document. Bank statements, receipts, contracts. But that wasn't the part that hit the hardest. It was the pattern. Once I laid everything out, side by side, the contrast became impossible to ignore. Claire, over $100,000 from my parents across failed ventures, plus college support. Mere zero. Not even small help. Not even a safety net. Just expectation. I built a full timeline. 47 pages. Cold, clean, undeniable. When I sent it to Blackwell, he called me within 10 minutes. This is perfect, he said. This doesn't just defend you. This destroys them. Good, I replied, and I meant it. 2 weeks later, the counter lawsuit was filed. I was at home, packing orders, when my phone rang. They've been served, Blackwell said. About an hour ago. I paused. How did they take it? Your mother called my office screaming, he said calmly. Your father demanded to speak to me. I declined. I let out a slow breath. What happens now? Discovery, he said. We ask questions, under oath. We make them prove their claims. And they can't. No, he said, they can't. That evening, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls. 12 from my mom. 3 from my dad. 2 from Claire. I listened to one voicemail. Just one. Anna, how could you do this to us? My mother cried. We are your parents. You're attacking your own family. This is abuse. I deleted the rest because for the first time I understood something clearly. They didn't want resolution. They wanted control back, and I wasn't giving it to them. Claire texted from a new number. You're disgusting. I hope you're happy destroying this family. I blocked it. Dad texted next. Well, this has gone too far. Drop your counterclaim and we'll drop ours. Let's be adults. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. You sued me first. I'm finishing it. No reply. The next day, Marcus came over with pizza and beer. Your family's going crazy online, he said, pulling out his phone. I'm not on social media, I replied. I know, that's why I'm showing you. My mom had posted. Long message, emotional tone, carefully written to make her look like the victim. Heartbroken doesn't begin to describe how we feel. We tried to guide our daughter. She chose money over family. Hundreds of comments. Some supportive, some not. Marcus scrolled. Look at this. One comment stood out. Aunt Rachel. Didn't you fund Claire's businesses and education? What did Anna get? No reply from my mom. Another. Uncle Jim. So you gave one daughter everything and now you're suing the other for succeeding? Also ignored. Claire had posted too. Shorter. More aggressive. My sister is suing our parents because they asked her to help me. I made mistakes, sure, but family supports each other. This is what greed does. The comments were split. Some defending her. Others asking questions she couldn't answer. How much money did your parents give you? Why does your sister owe you anything? What exactly did she do wrong? Claire didn't respond to any of them. They're trying to control the narrative, Marcus said. They always do, I replied. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. Anna, it's Aunt Rachel. Her voice was calm, different. I saw your mom's post, she said. I wanted to hear your side. So I told her everything. The lawsuit, the money, the years of imbalance. The silence on her end stretched longer this time. Then, I'm so sorry, she said quietly. I knew they favored Claire, but not like this. Most people didn't, I said. For what it's worth, she added. I'm on your side, and I told your mother that. I closed my eyes for a second. Thank you. After the call, Marcus looked at me. You've got some people backing you. Some, I said. Enough, he replied. 3 weeks later, the next phase began. Depositions. Blackwell called me the night before. Tomorrow, we question your parents under oath, he said. Stay calm. Don't react. Let me handle it. I will, I said. The next morning, we sat in a conference room. My parents across the table. Their lawyer beside them. For the first time, they didn't look confident. They looked uneasy. The court reporter swore them in. And then Blackwell began. Simple questions. Clear answers. How much money did you give Claire for her businesses? Pause. Approximately $100,000. How much did you give Anna? Silence. 0. How much did you contribute to Claire's education? Another pause. Over $200,000 including loans. And Anna? 0. Blackwell nodded slightly. Can you provide evidence that Anna sabotaged Claire's businesses? My mother hesitated. She refused to help. Is she legally obligated to help? Silence. Did Claire ever help Anna? No answer. Do you have any proof of sabotage? And Claire told us. Blackwell leaned back slightly. So your entire case is based on your other daughter's opinion. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Yes. By the end of it, everything had fallen apart, under oath, with no way to take it back. When my father's turn came, it was worse. More anger. Same facts. No defense. When they left the room, they didn't look like they had a case anymore. They looked like they had made a mistake they couldn't undo. Blackwell turned to me. That, he said calmly, is what winning looks like before trial. And for the first time, I believed him. The next week, we deposed Claire. If my parents' testimony had cracked their case, Claire's destroyed it. She walked in late, wearing something that tried too hard to look professional, like confidence could be faked with the right outfit. Her expression was already defensive before Blackwell asked a single question. That told me everything. Blackwell started simple. Let's talk about your first business, the food concept. Why did it fail? Claire leaned forward, immediately launching into a speech. Regulations, she said. Permits. The system is designed to crush small entrepreneurs. Blackwell nodded once. Did you research those regulations before starting? Pause. I knew there would be challenges. That's not what I asked, he said calmly. Did you research them? Yes or no? No. Did you have a business plan? I had a vision. That's not a business plan. He slid a document across the table. 17 food businesses operated successfully in your area during that same period. They faced the same regulations. Why did they succeed and you didn't? Claire's jaw tightened. They probably had more resources. You had $45,000 in startup capital, Blackwell said. More than most. Silence. Let's move on. Crypto. $30,000. Lost in 6 weeks. Your strategy? Blackwell asked. I followed market trends, she said quickly. Experts online. Did you verify those experts' credentials? They had millions of views. A pause. Even the court reporter looked like she was holding back a reaction. Views are not qualifications, Blackwell said. Claire shifted in her seat. Next, he continued, flipping a page. The consulting business, $25,000. Office rent, branding, marketing. Claire straightened slightly. Like this one mattered more. I was building a foundation. With no clients, he asked. It takes time. You closed in 4 months. Silence again. Then he asked the question everything had been leading toward. Miss Ware, you claim your sister sabotaged your success. How? She refused to help me, Claire said immediately. Did you ask for help? I talked about my ideas. That's not what I asked, Blackwell said. Did you explicitly ask her for help? Yes or no? Claire hesitated. No. So your sister sabotaged you. By not offering help you never requested? That's not how family works, she snapped. Family should help without being asked. Blackwell didn't react. Did you help your sister with her business? Silence. Did you offer assistance? Nothing. Did you even ask about her business? Claire looked down. I don't remember. Because you didn't, he said. Her face flushed. She had advantages, Claire muttered. Blackwell paused. Like what? She's smarter, Claire said, frustration creeping into her voice. She always did better in school. I felt something in my chest tighten. So your claim, Blackwell said slowly, is that your sister had an unfair advantage because she worked harder and performed better academically? That's not what She worked 3 jobs in college, he continued. You did not. She built a business from scratch. You received over $100,000 in funding. Which part of that was easier for her? Claire pushed back from the table slightly. You're twisting this. No, he said calmly. I'm clarifying it. Then he delivered the final question. In your lawsuit, you claim your sister's house should be transferred to you. Why? Claire didn't hesitate this time. Because she believed it. Because it should have been mine, she said. The room went completely still. Blackwell leaned forward slightly. Why should it have been yours? Because I'm the oldest, she said, her voice rising. I'm supposed to have the life she has. That was meant to be mine. There it was. Not strategy. Not evidence. Not even justification. Just entitlement. Pure, unfiltered, unapologetic. Blackwell closed his folder. Thank you, he said calmly. That's all I need. Claire stood up immediately, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Hey, this is ridiculous, she snapped. You're all against me. Her lawyer didn't even try to stop her this time. She walked out. And just like that, the case was over. Not officially. Not yet. But in reality, there was nothing left for them to stand on. After she left, Blackwell looked at me. That, he said, almost impressed, was a gift. How so? I asked. She just admitted under oath that she believes she's entitled to your life simply because she's older, he said. No judge is going to side with that. What happens now? He leaned back in his chair. Now, we wait. He paused. But honestly, I don't think this is going to trial. Why? Because their lawyer knows they've already lost. 3 days later, he was right. 3 days after Claire's deposition, Blackwell called me. They want to settle, he said. I leaned back in my chair, already knowing what that meant. What are they offering? They'll drop their lawsuit, he said. We drop ours. Walk away clean. I didn't even think about it. No. There was a brief pause. That's aggressive, he said. They sued me, I replied. They tried to take my house. I want a judgment. Another pause. Then, all right, he said. I'll let them know. The shift was immediate. Desperation. My parents started calling again. Messaging, emails, voicemails that swung wildly between guilt and urgency. This is tearing the family apart. Think about what you're doing. We can fix this. No. They couldn't. Not anymore. Blackwell kept me updated. They're offering to pay your legal fees now, he said a few days later. Full amount. How much? About $18,000. No, I said again. You're sure? I don't want their money, I said. I want it on record. That was the difference. This wasn't about compensation. This was about truth. Trial was set for 4 weeks. 4 weeks of pressure. 4 weeks of silence. 4 weeks of realizing just how far they would go to avoid facing what they had done. Marcus came over 2 days before the trial. You sure about this? He asked. This is your family. They stopped being my family when they sued me, I said. What if this ruins them? He pushed. Financially? Socially? I looked at him. They made that decision when they filed. He didn't argue after that. Trial day came fast. I wore a navy suit I bought specifically for it, not to impress anyone. To remind myself who I was walking in as. Not the girl they raised. The woman I became without them. The courthouse felt heavier than I expected. Marble floors, echoes in the hallway, everything louder than it needed to be. Blackwell met me outside the courtroom. Ready? He asked. Yes. Stay calm. Let me do the talking. I nodded. We walked in. My parents were already there. They looked different. Smaller. Not physically. Emotionally. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. My father looked angry, but it felt forced. Claire sat behind them, arms crossed, staring at me like I was still something she could take from. The judge entered. Judge Hernandez. She didn't waste time. I've reviewed the depositions, she said, looking directly at my parents' lawyer. This case raises immediate concerns. Their lawyer shifted in his seat. Your Honor, the plaintiffs believe... I'm not asking what they believe, she interrupted. I'm asking what evidence they have. Silence. She continued. The plaintiffs gave one daughter over $300,000 in support. They gave the other nothing. That daughter succeeded independently. Now they are suing her for that success. Her eyes moved to my parents. Is that accurate? No one answered. Because they couldn't. Blackwell stood. Your Honor, we move to dismiss and request judgment on our counterclaim. The judge nodded slightly. Granted. Just like that. No long argument. No drawn-out process. Done. She continued speaking, her tone sharp now. This lawsuit has no legal merit. It is a misuse of the court system. It should never have been filed. My mother tried to stand. Your Honor, we just wanted... Sit down, the judge said firmly. Silence. Then came the part that mattered. The court orders the plaintiffs to pay the defendant's legal fees in the amount of $18,400. A sharp intake of breath from my mother. Additionally, the judge continued, a sanction of $5,000 will be imposed for filing a frivolous claim. My father's head dropped. Claire stared at the floor. And this judgment, the judge added, will be entered into public record. That was the real consequence. Not the money. The record. Permanent. Undeniable. You are not being punished for loving your daughter, the judge said calmly. You are being punished for attempting to take from another. Then, we are adjourned. The gavel hit. And just like that, it was over. Claire stood up first. This is a joke, she snapped. She sabotaged me. Leave, the judge said coldly. Claire stormed out. My parents didn't move for a moment. Then slowly, they stood, not looking at me. Not saying anything. Just leaving. I didn't follow. I didn't say a word. Because there was nothing left to say. Outside, Blackwell shook my hand. That was decisive, he said. How do you feel? Marcus asked when he met me in the hallway. I thought about it. Everything. The years. The pressure. The moment it all broke. Free, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. The fallout came fast. Faster than I expected. That same night, Claire posted, the system is broken. My sister used money and lawyers to destroy our family. This is what greed looks like. The comments weren't what she expected. Didn't you sue her first? You lost because you had no case. Maybe take responsibility? The post was gone within an hour. My mom tried next. Longer, more emotional. We lost in court today, not because we were wrong, but because the system favors those with money. We only wanted to teach our daughter about family values. That one lasted even less time. People weren't buying it anymore, because for the first time, the truth was public, and they couldn't rewrite it. 3 days later, I got a call from Aunt Rachel. Your parents are in trouble, she said. What kind? They refinanced their house twice to fund Claire. Between that and the judgment, they're close to losing everything. I leaned back in my chair. That's not my problem. I know, she said gently. Just be ready. They might try to come back to you. They did, but not the way I expected. A week later, someone knocked on my door. I opened it. Claire stood there. She looked different. Not polished. Not confident. Just tired. We need to talk, she said. No, I replied. Please, just 5 minutes. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking around like she was seeing the house for the first time. What do you want? I asked. She didn't sit. I need help, she said. I almost laughed. Of course. I'm serious, she added quickly. Mom and Dad are struggling. We might lose the house. I'm living out of my car half the time. I crossed my arms. And I need money. There it was. Still the same, different tone, same expectation. You sued me, I said calmly. You tried to take this house from me. I was angry, she said. You were entitled, I corrected. She flinched. I made mistakes, she said. You made choices, I replied, repeatedly. Silence filled the room. You're really not going to help? She asked finally. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see my sister. I saw someone who had spent her entire life avoiding consequences. And now, she had run out of ways to escape them. No, I said. Her face hardened slightly. So that's it? You're just going to let us lose everything? You already did that, I said. I just didn't stop you. She stared at me for a long second, then turned and walked out. I closed the door behind her and waited. For guilt, for doubt, for something. Nothing came. Just quiet. 2 months later, they filed for bankruptcy. Lost the house. Moved into a small apartment. All 3 of them. The same family that once decided what I should sacrifice. Now dealing with what they had created. I heard updates through Aunt Rachel. Some relatives blamed me. Said I was cold. Said families should stick together. Others didn't. Said this was inevitable. Said it was long overdue. I didn't respond to any of it. Because for the first time, their opinions didn't define me. I kept building. My business grew. $250,000 in revenue. Then more. I hired my first employee. Expanded. Moved forward. And somewhere along the way, I met someone. His name was Daniel. We met at a networking event. He was building his own company. Smart, grounded, the kind of person who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. On our 3rd date, I told him everything. They sued you? He asked, stunned. Yeah. For succeeding? Pretty much. He shook his head slowly. That's not normal. I know. Do you talk to them? No. He nodded once. Good. Not judgment. Not pressure. Just understanding. That was new. 6 months later, I got a letter from my dad. I almost didn't open it, but I did. We were wrong. That was the first line. Not excuses. Not justification. Just wrong. He wrote about everything. The favoritism. The decisions. The lawsuit. How they had confused support with control. How they had resented me for succeeding without them. How they had finally seen it. I don't expect forgiveness, he wrote. I just want you to know you were right. I read it twice, then folded it and put it away. Not because it didn't matter, but because it didn't fix anything. Not yet. 2 years later, I saw Claire again, by accident, in a coffee shop. She looked thinner, quieter, working a retail job. No confidence, no illusion, just reality. She walked over slowly. I'm not here for money, she said immediately. I almost smiled. Progress. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't respond right away. I was wrong, she continued, about everything. I thought you took something from me, but I never built anything to begin with. That landed, because it was the first honest thing she had ever said. I've been in therapy, she added. Working, learning, starting over. I studied her. This wasn't the same person. Or, at least, not the same mindset. I appreciate the apology, I said. She nodded. I don't expect anything else. She stood, left, and this time, she didn't ask for anything. That mattered. A lot. That night, Daniel asked me how I felt. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe someday? He nodded. There's a difference between forgiveness and access, he said. Yeah, I said. I'm starting to understand that. A year later, My business crossed 500,000. Daniel moved in. We built something stable, healthy, real. And one night, standing in the house I bought, renovated, and protected, I realized something. The lawsuit was never about money. It was about identity. They thought my life belonged to them. And when I proved it didn't, they tried to take it anyway. But in the end, they didn't lose because I fought back. They lost because I stopped giving them control. And that was something no court could ever give me.